This is CNN.
How many Americans allow their pets to sleep with them or hold birthday parties for their pets? Our call-in guest will have some of the most oddball statistics you've ever heard, and we will consider the sources. Have you ever lost any sleep wondering how many priests have broken their vows of celibacy? Or gone into a fit of angst over which part of the country uses honey the most as a term of endearment? How about this one? How many vampires exist in the United States, and how do they get the blood that they allegedly drink? Well, our guest today, Tom Heymann, says he has the answers to some of these most bizarre questions, along with a lot of other odd statistics. Tom Heymann is the author of the unofficial U.S. Census, What the U.S. Census Doesn't Tell You. And he joins us from our bureau in New York. Morning.
Good morning, Bob.
Interesting book.
Thank you.
Why do I need your book?
Well, I was captivated by the fact that the Census Bureau was spending $2.6 billion and hiring more than 500,000 Americans to count basically about 40 questions having to do with what color we are, what kind of housing we live in, what kind of utilities we're using. I thought, well, that's fine, very necessary information, but what else is it about the American people that's interesting and important to know and tells us something more about who we are? And that's really was my marching call, pick up where they left off.
In your research, have you uncovered anything that really astounded you?
Well, you made mention of it briefly before. I was very shocked by the fact that of America's Catholic priests, there are about 57,000 in total, 50% have broken their vows of celibacy and have actually are engaged in sexual relationships. Now, the majority are involved in heterosexual relationships, but a large number are involved in homosexual relationships, sex with minors, and all sorts of other behaviors, one which they call problematic masturbation, and that's their terminology.
All right. That brings us to the question of your sources. Will you grant from the outside that some of your, may I call them factoids? Sure. And certainly the sources from which they come are open to challenge?
Well, in every case, the information, with the exception of the vampires, which comes from more anecdotal information, all of the sources are documented in the book and come from surveys that were done of the American people, in the same way that all of our ratings are developed, all of our personal choices are developed by taking a survey of, be it 1,000 people or 1,500 people, and then extrapolating out to the general population. And we go in knowing that there's a margin of error of approximately 2.5%. The only true count is done when the Census Bureau tries to count every head in America. And now there's been some dispute because with an undercount of approximately 10 million people, the Census Bureau, in fact, may be going with a survey sampling methodology from here on in.
Well, you say the vampire information came from. Tell us, first of all, what you found out about vampires.
Well, this information came from none other than the Vampire Institute, and we found out that there are an estimated 500 vampires moonlighting in the streets of America, and of those, 425 use the more traditional, pure method of blood acquisition, which is biting, and 75 have gone against the mainstream and are now using cutting and all kinds of other less pure instruments to obtain their blood supply.
And how much confidence do you have in the Vampire Institute as a source?
Well, I have less confidence in that information, but I feel like I need less confidence in that information as opposed to some of the other data in the book.
All right, then at least you are granting that some of the material in your book is to be taken with a grain of salt.
Absolutely. For most of the book, my tongue was firmly in my cheek. There is some serious information here, but basically the theme of the book is that we should not take ourselves quite so seriously in every endeavor, and that if we think we're a little bit strange, we probably are, but we're probably not alone also.
Okay. Let's turn to terms of endearment for a second. You delved into that a little bit. In what part of the country is the term honey most widely used? Well,
it was interesting, and we have a graphic here. 94% of Americans go by some kind of term of endearment, be it other than their first name. And we found out that honey was by far the most popular term of endearment. About 48 million Americans go by the term honey with their loved one. And we found out that geographically speaking, the South has the largest number of people called honey, followed close second in the Midwest, third the Northeast, and lagging way behind the West with just under 9 million honeys.
Find out what they do instead in the West?
Well, in the West, they have there are a lot of other names that came in, second, third, fourth. Stupid and jerk are not included in this survey, so a lot of people were left out.
Okay, well, we can understand that. You have some really bizarre figures in this book, and we will get to some more of them, as well as to some questions and comments from our viewers after we take a break. The phone number to talk with Tom Heymann is area 404-221-0218.
For you. Why, there's over 1 million people in there sweating to the oldies, and you're missing all the excitement. Well, don't worry, because we're moving this aerobic party to your house with sweating to the oldies too. And honey, if you thought the first workout was a blast, then you ain't seen nothing yet. Because with sweating too, the party's just begun. This is one sequel that has no equal. You'll dance your pounds away in a funky 50s diner as my blistering hot rock and roll band pumps up the volume with a brand new performance of your favorite golden oldies. The only thing you'll find on this diner's menu is exercise. From legs to stomach to buns, we'll serve you up the best low-impact workout you've ever experienced. And to keep you motivated, I've invited a whole new group of friends for you to party with. I promise you, you'll find someone in this video who'll inspire you to keep sweating on. Yeah! Hey, now what's a party without a gift? Well, I've got one for you. It's my brand new Take a Walk audio fitness cassette. You just plug it into your Walkman, open your front door, and off you go. You'll walk your way to a better you, and it's yours free when you order Sweatin' to the Oldies too.
Richard, stop talking and get in that box.
Just a second, Mother. So, if you missed the first party or don't want to be left out of the second one, this is your chance to join the fun.
Sweatin' to the Oldies is not sold or rented in any store. You can get your copy by calling 1-800-648-1700. That's 1-800-648-1700. Remember, Richard's Take a Walk audio fitness cassette at $12.95 value is yours free when you order. So call 1-800-648-1700.
Tom Heymann is the author of the unofficial U.S. Census, What the Census Doesn't Tell You. We're taking calls, and our first caller is from Louisiana. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
I wanted to know, where are the single men over 30?
Do you happen to uncover that, Tom?
That's a question I get quite frequently. It's interesting. Everyone wants to meet the Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, so included in the unofficial census are the place married Americans actually met. And we have information of America's 56 million married couples. The largest number met in social situations, parties, bars, things like that. About 11 million couples met that way, followed second by school. Just over 10 million couples met that way. And then going down the line, work, churches and synagogues, blind dates, so don't count out blind dates, public transportation, health clubs, and personal ads. So these are some of the things you might try in looking for that perfect person.
Hope that helps. Next caller is from Idaho. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Wondering, what is the most unusual fact that you were able to display in your book?
I would have to say the fact that we discovered that 25 Americans are currently in the state of cryonic suspension, which is the act of being frozen in the hope that sometime later in the future they'll find a cure for your disease. And not only that, these 25 people are joined by 300 Americans who have put down their deposit, so at the time they expire, they'll be put into a deep freeze right away.
I had one I thought might be a contender, but it probably isn't. And that was that if you don't want to get punched out, you're best off being a Protestant.
That's right. We found out it's a very violent society. We found out that more than 60 million Americans claim to have been punched, and we're not talking about a love tap here, but a punch. And we broke it out by religion. The greatest probability of being punched was within the Jewish religion, and then it goes down from there into Catholicism and Protestantism.
That was a very odd statistic. What was your source on that one?
That came from the Bureau of Justice Statistics.
Of the National Opinion Research Center?
Yes.
Which is what?
The National Opinion Research Center, in conjunction with Bureau of Justice Statistics, does a national social survey every year, and this is one of the things that they're looking at.
Okay. We are going to resume our questions and comments for Tom Heymann after we take a brief break to do some other business. Please stay with us. Beverly, we are talking with Tom Heymann, the author of the unofficial U.S. Census, and our next phone caller is from Pennsylvania. Good morning.
Good morning. I would just like to know where I think you got the spurious data on the American priesthood.
That information came from a survey of 1,500 priests conducted by Dr. Richard Sipe and reported in his book, The Secret World.
Who is Dr. Richard Sipe?
He's a PhD and former member of the clergy.
Of what clergy, and does he belong to any political or ideologically oriented group or organization?
Not that I know of, but he was a Catholic priest.
Okay. Our next caller is, did I hear from Kentucky, Bruce? Thank you. Okay, from Kentucky, good morning.
Good morning, Tom. This is Carl from Berea, Kentucky, and I was wondering if you feel that the data that's used in advertising as far as statistics goes are manipulated in any sort of dangerous way to like mislead people, or if you believe it's fairly accurate.
Well, I think all of our numbers come from a basic sampling methodology, and whether it's 600 people or 10,000 people, there's a basic understanding that you're accurate to within a certain margin of error, be it 2%, 3%, 4%. Now, you can manipulate data and include the information that you want to have reported and omit other kinds of information. So in that way, I think all of our information is deceiving in some respects.
Tom, did anything in your survey tell you how many of us have no idea what to do with our VCRs once we get them?
It actually did. I found out that about 180 million Americans live in homes with VCRs, but unfortunately about 144 million of us don't know how to program the machines. So for that reason, I had to ask about 5 of my friends to record today's program. I have to assume about 4 of them are going to blow it.
Okay, good grief. Indiana is on the line. Hello.
Hello, I'm from South Bend, Indiana, home of Fighting Irish. My question is in relationship to sexual content, in that homosexuals, heterosexuals, and lesbians, if you did a report on that. The other part would be in sexual problems in general, say of men and women, and what the relationship was.
Well, as far as homosexuality, I've seen reported, not included in this book, the estimates range from 5 to 10%. As far as sexual behaviors go, there's a lot about that in this book. One entry in the book is called Counting Two-Timers, and we found out that, yes, people are still fooling around. We found out that almost 1.7 million married Americans are engaged in affairs, and the largest number are involved in affairs with close personal friends, about 900,000, followed by a neighbor, co-worker, or acquaintance, about 400,000 Americans, a casual date or pickup, more than 300,000 Americans having an affair with, and a prostitute, about 32,000 Americans are currently engaged in an affair with a prostitute.
You also uncovered some data indicating that some people have affairs with animals.
That's true. There are a certain number of Americans, and I think it's about 10 million actually, evenly split between men and women, strangely enough, of people who claim that they are having sexual contact with animals periodically.
Finally, last question. How many of us consider our dogs our best friend?
Well, there are about 40 million dog owners in the country, and I'm one of them, and the dog's best friend is something that I've grown up with, and we found out that 13 million of these dog owners feel that their pet is closer to their pet than they are to their best friend. About 6 million American dog owners are as close to their pet as they are to their children, and just over 4 million American dog owners say they're as close to their pet as they are to their spouse, which is probably why about 1.2 million American dogs are sleeping in their owners' beds.
All right. Tom Heymann, the book is the unofficial, some may want to say the very unofficial U.S. Census. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you, Bob.
From Hollywood, The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. This is Ed McMahon along with Doc Severinsen and the NBC Orchestra, inviting you to join Johnny and his guests, Billy Connolly. Music by Reba McEntire and comedian Richard Jennings. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Johnny.
Okay, folks, question. How many of you would say you have more than 10 nightmares a year? Okay. Today's New York Times had an article on the habits of Americans, the unmade American bedroom, it said, and according to them, the average American has 1,600 dreams a year and 1.5 nightmares is all. Now, that seems rather low, doesn't it? All right, we found a different nightmare statistic in this book. This is a book by a fellow by the name of Tom Heymann. It's called In an Average Lifetime. And he points out a lot of different things that we do during an average lifetime. He says the average American has 1,947 nightmares in a lifetime, or about 26 a year. Would you like to hear some more of his fascinating things?
Oh, boy, would we? Yeah. Since you weren't here last night, we'd like to hear anything you got. Yeah.
If I had the writers here, I'd get you. In a lifetime, the average American opens the refrigerator door 231,323 times. Almost 250,000 times. Let's see. Woman rearranges his or her furniture 177 times. I've got that beat. You change the television channel 325,393 times. You'll bounce 152 checks. I guess that's, not on purpose, but overdrafts or so forth. In a lifetime, the average woman has 83,074 sexual fantasies. The average man has 166,148. Make that 49. Just right there as I read that. You'll have your car towed 8 times, get 3 flat tires, and be locked out of your car twice. Now, Mr. Heymann has research backing up every one of these claims. Unfortunately, research of this caliber is expensive and time-consuming, so we skipped that part. When we did our average statistics, here's some more statistics that apply to average Americans. By the time you're 18, you've seen Awakenings on HBO 400 times. By age 50, 3/4 of all television viewers will have begun making love during The Tonight Show. Half of those will finish before Ed says, "Here's Johnny." In a lifetime, the average fridge repairman will spend more time out of his pants on the job than he does at home. In an average lifetime of driving, you'll see a motorcyclist signal before making a lanes change twice. The average cuckoo clock bird hopes twice a day that his owners will make love at midnight so he can get a longer peek at them. In a lifetime, the average Jehovah's Witnesses eat 6.5 pounds of screen door aluminum. We suggest we haven't. So I said our research may be slightly faulty, but we do the best we can. At 18, all you can do is think about sex. At 78, all you can do about sex is think. In a lifetime, a veterinarian will lop off 1,600 things that dogs would really rather have kept. By the time you're 35, you've seen 10,000 undercooked Denny's eggs. Just a joke, Denny's, just a joke. By age 26, the average woman has been proposed to by Ed 3 times. By age 89, the average married man has bought 1 pair of his own underwear. Now, here's one. I don't know what we came up with this, but it's fascinating. By age 16, the average teenager has wondered 11,000 times what olive oil had to make Popeye and Bluto fight over her. The average person in a hurry parks in a handicapped space 27 times and limps into the supermarket. During a 10-year career, the average McDonald's chef will cook 250,000 French fries, 90,000 apple pies, and 2.5 pounds of meat. That's a joke also. That's a joke also. Get right behind the other people. Get right behind Denny for your lawsuits. By the way, send your lawsuits to Warren Littlefield. He wanted to send the helicopter for me. Before you die, you will take 4,627 elevator rides and hear 4,628 Barry Manilow songs. Okay? And the average lifetime, a man will lie about the length of the fish he caught 3,000 times. And it doesn't stop there. Kind of like a storm. It just kind of trailed off at the end and was just raging there for a moment, and then it just, sun came out and it would drizzle.
Coming up next, it's Live with Regis and Kathy Lee.
Incidentally, here's another new book that I really enjoyed reading. It's written by Tom Heymann. It's on an average day here in America. On an average day, I mean, you can pull to anything, and listen to these statistics. On an average day, Americans drink 524 million servings of Coca-Cola. On an average day.
I should have bought stock years ago.
On an average day, 2,005,479 Americans suffer heartburn. On an average day...
Add one to that.
I didn't know that. I thought there'd be more. On an average day, 47 women receive breast lifts.
Just 47?
Yeah.
I saw 47 on the street today. I think it's higher than that in New York.
I think so, too. On an average day, 225 Americans receive nose jobs. Of those, 56 are performed on men.
More noses than breasts.
On an average day, 36,910 cars are sold. Can you believe that? Every day, 36,000?
How many are dumped on the side of the streets here in New York?
About 38,000.
Yeah.
Listen to this. On an average day, the federal government spends $46,027,400 on education.
Who's
46 million. Now listen to this one. On an average day, the federal government spends $807 million on defense. Every day, $807 million on defense.
So we twice as much on defense as on education?
More than that, way more than that. On an average day, $63 million spent on television advertising.
Well, that I like.
On an average day, 214 Americans begin work at a Japanese-owned factory.
64 enroll in Japanese to learn Japanese?
Yeah.
Just 64?
Yeah, every
With all
day.
the business we do with Japan, I'm shocked at that.
Average day, AT&T processes 75 million calls.
No, they're on strike, so it's down a little bit.